We're on Zoom, and you can get the connection for that, the link to that on robertbeatty.com. So, another dry day here in Portland, Oregon. Some of you I just saw 5 minutes ago, last night. It's amazing how we get to be together like this. I have a poem I haven't read for a long time. I know I've given this as support to many, many people over the years. And you may well recognize it's a potent one. It's called The Journey, and it's by Mary Oliver. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your knees, mend my life, each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible, it was already late enough in a wild night and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company. As you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles, mend my life, each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible, it was already late enough in a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company. As you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. In the mythology of the Buddha, there was that moment that they call the great going forth, when he left the life of the householder and went off on his quest. That mythology doesn't mean we have to leave everyone and everything behind. It means we have to honor the inner shift, where the journey becomes paramount, where we really listen to ourselves and to the small emerging voice of wisdom. Hang on here, there we go. So, let's sit. Let's cultivate a few moments of gratitude. We got to wake up this morning. The breathing is happening. The unimaginably complex systems of the body are in adequate balance to sustain life, to sustain consciousness. There's enough food in the fridge. There's a community to meditate with. There's the teachings. It's a lot to lean on, to lean into. In what shall we take refuge? What refuge will really carry us across the storm, through the unpredictability of life? I take refuge in the Buddha, in being awake. The personality, one's ideology, one's politics can change. How shall I find enough stability to allow life to be as it is? I take refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, in the teachings of the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and the way things actually are. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of practice and honesty and integrity, caring, mutual support. And the lineage of those who went before, practicing in this same way. Who succeeded in tasting freedom. And so we come to this moment, always this moment. And we discover that the body is alive. It breathes in and breathes out. We might remind ourselves right at the outset, I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I discover this self to be right now.
No, no, no.
Sounds, words, responding to words. Attentive to, touched by, curious about. Breathing in and breathing out. Each breath has a beginning. It has a rising to fullness, a decline, and then a vanishing. It's one thing to have a thought or imagination about this. It's another to actually inhabit, for awareness to really receive the truth, the fact of the body breathing. Of course, the human mind delights in creating thoughts. It imagines a future and a past. There are wandering minds of many kinds. And for the purposes of practice, they're all just thoughts. For a little while each day, what we call our formal practice, we get to really take a vacation. Sounds. No interruption, just a sound. Mindfulness can notice what is the attitude toward practice right now. Is there some subtle or not so subtle greed, desire, wanting a particular state to happen? I want that tranquil, concentrated bliss I had yesterday, or they talk about in the books. Or maybe there's aversion to or disliking of the state that's here right now. In one case, there's the creation of a self that wants something more pleasant. And the other, creation of a self that is in opposition to what exists. These likings and dislikings are themselves not a problem. They're just the way the mind is. Awakeness, wisdom, illuminates them, and they become another object of observation. We don't need to struggle to get rid of them. We're already home. In the wisdom of knowing them. Each breath has its beginning. Each breath has its ending. Each thought that thinks itself into existence has a beginning, has an ending. As a human being, we bring something extraordinary to the table. Not only is there a body sitting here, not only is there consciousness, but there's also knowing, that which knows, that which is awake, that which knows that it knows. And so when breathing in is happening, there's breathing in and knowing of breathing in. And knowing of that knowing. Perhaps the 5 hindrances are in flower, in bloom. There's desire, wanting, craving, or disliking, aversion. These are knowable. And that which knows is knowable. Not so directly, but we can know when mindfulness is present. We can know when mindfulness has been not present. Once put in motion, this waking up process is inexorable. We can continue to help it. And it has a life of its own. One breath at a time. One thought at a time. as wisdom flourishes, as mindfulness gets stronger, concentration. The difference between the trance of the wandering mind and being awake becomes readily obvious. It's like day and night, or on and off, here or not here. We begin to recognize the outlines of the journey. We begin to recognize what must be done, what can be done. And it all happens right now, right here. In this very nanosecond, right now. Please let us take a moment to see each other. I just remembered a teaching from my Sufi teacher, Hidayat Inayat Khan. In any number of ways, he said over and over again, human beings have only one desire. And that's the desire to be reunited with the One. Even the most awful things that we humans do can be traced back to wanting things to be loving and safe. Funny, I'm just having a flood of thoughts, remembering a talk that I heard that, you remember Osama bin Laden? He was kind of a bad guy, to say the least. He was driven for purity. He was going to drive the Westerners out of the Middle East so as to reestablish basically the kingdom of heaven on earth. Sure did a lot of harm with that, didn't he? So what is this longing that we have? It's, I think, to remember that which we really are. And we can focus it pretty precisely with the practice, I think. I have a couple of announcements. One is this shared screen. The digest, thank you to Gregory and Molly for putting this together every week. It's really, and Avi helps them. It's an amazing thing that we have this weekend, starting tomorrow evening. Their dress rehearsal is at 11 tomorrow morning. I am the MC or host or officiant of this event. It's from tomorrow evening at 7, I think, till Sunday at noon or a little after. Restoring the land, renewing ourselves. It's a fundraiser for Brighton Bush. And the present will be Robert Beatty, Ralph Kushner, Sarah Joy Marsh, Ruth Williamson, and Irene Kendall. And there'll be, and also there will be music from Shantala on Saturday morning. And again, I forget who's doing music on Saturday night. This means that I will not be here this Sunday. I will not be teaching. And Frank Leder, my Dharma brother from Frankfurt, just outside Frankfurt in Germany, will be teaching Sunday morning. We had plans for him to come in February, of course, and they went the way of all COVIDs. We now have a plan that I'm going to go and teach with him in Germany in 2022 in the summer. Candle Summers, the lovely Candle, our great colleague and friend teacher. Women's Restorative Rejuvenation Circle, 4 Fridays. The registrations for that are open. She also has her first and third Sundays of the month. I encourage you to check out. And here's the monthly Metta for Racial Justice, a gathering. It goes from 6 to 7 on the 19th. And this time it's honoring Women First Transition and Referral Center. And then there's all the other things that we do at PIMC. There's an NVC practice group Tuesday, May 11th. That must be next Tuesday. And the other sitting groups that are That's a nice picture, isn't it? Those geese in front of the moon. So, let's remember to see one another through eyes of kindness. It is an intention. And we can get very lost in our ideas and funny, I remember the first time a few years ago when I heard the term of throwing under the bus. Throwing someone under the bus. It's akin to throwing someone out of our hearts. And as I understand the practice, it is about opening our hearts more and more so we don't have anything to defend and we don't have to throw anybody out of our hearts. And we do it one little step at a time, starting with ourselves and the parts of ourselves that are so unacceptable. So I guess that's all I want to say. Did I miss any announcement that ought to be announced, Jim?
I'm not aware of any right at this moment.
Great.
Thank you.
Yay. So, dear friends, what is your practice of mindfulness and love and compassion revealing?
Good morning, Robert. Good morning, Sangha. It's Jessica.
Hello,
Again.
Jessica. Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to check in because I felt like I went back to some old habits this morning where I was really, I started off feeling mindful. I could see thoughts arising. I was labeling them as thoughts. And then I noticed there was this, especially you were kind of going through where there might be disliking or aversion. And all of a sudden I felt just like this clenching. And it was like, I don't like all these thoughts. And then it was just like this spiraling then of, oh, I should be calm. Oh, but wait, I shouldn't be seeking to be calm. And I felt like at moments I'd get back to a place of just accepting these are thoughts, this is the turmoil, this is disliking. And then it took off again. And then doubt really came in nice and strong for a while there, like, you suck at this, you really don't know what you're doing, all this is just a waste. So it just was so, like, it's been such a long time where I've had that just all consuming. Even now as I say it, I can just feel like this sense of almost slight overwhelm, like, man, I don't know if I just could speak to that because it was just kind of surprising. And it's like I felt like I hurt myself. And now I'm sitting here feeling just all sorts of sadness and disappointment and all of this arising. And it just feels like a big, ugly shot out of left field. And maybe that's just my ego that was like, there's a part of me that's going, ha, ha, ha. No, girlfriend, you aren't nearly as long as you thought you were. Take a chill pill. So, sorry to just leap into that, but there it was. Just big mess.
Michael, how was it for you sitting beside that this morning? Was it as loud as it sounds?
Right into this year. Yeah, I didn't know that was going on. So
Yeah.
Once again, blissful ignorance.
So, Jessica, impermanence. It's really true. And I have an hypothesis or two in my own life and practice right now why what's happening is happening. But this mind, this body, this thing, this person has had outbreaks of anxiety lately that I haven't been aware of for quite a while. And there they are. And I can fight against them and go to doubt about them, and it just unfolds in the way it unfolds. And the old patterns sometimes reemerge in great potency. Actually, a kind of extreme story comes to mind. I think it's relevant here. The Buddha had two chief disciples. They came along early, and they were with him for most of his teaching. They were Moggallana and Sariputta. And we know a lot about them from the canon. Moggallana was the great master of psychic powers and the jhanas, concentration, and Sariputta was second only to the Buddha in wisdom. And this story, it stretches credulity in a certain way, but it's interesting, I find. So Moggallana spent decades being of incredible service. When people would come to the community and they were skilled in concentration, they would send them to Moggallana, and he would teach them that side of practice. And then they would go to Sariputta after that. So we could surmise tens of thousands of people he assisted in their journey in huge ways. And part of the story goes that he had psychic powers, and he could disappear here and reappear there, and all that stuff that's very common in the early Buddhist literature. So here he is, he's quite old, and some thugs invade his dwelling, his living space, and they beat him within a millimeter of his life. Normally he would, quote, teleport himself away, he would disappear. But his powers are all gone. And they beat him, they leave him for dead. And then he comes back to consciousness, I guess. And he then teleports himself to the Buddha. He appears at the Buddha and says, essentially, what was that? Right? Wait, and the Buddha had a knowing comment of, well, this is the last ripening of old karma that you will experience. Because you're an arhat, you're not going to get reborn. This is lots of ideas in this, but the essence of it was that we can never predict what will arise in the present moment. That we will need to be loving, kind, mindful, have firmness with, because, for instance, like less dramatically, old neurotic patterns, old personality patterns, they just come up sometimes. And what does happen, I believe, and I think I can say this is true for me, I'm much more skilled. That had the anxiety of this last week or two emerged significantly in the past, I would have been drinking. I would have been freaked out. It's like, oh no, this is bad. No, but as it is, it's like, oh, here's this old friend, old enemy, old pattern of anxiety, which is kind of inchoate and doesn't have much structure. It's just doing its thing. And then I sit for a while and, it's gone. As I'm sure you're probably experienced during the meditation this morning. Here it is, and then there's the reactivity to it, and then it's gone. And then it's here, and then it's gone, and it's here. And so it's just, it's an elegant model, I think, in how to just continue to allow our lives to unfold. And there's a purification of consciousness over time. But You have a mind that likes to worry and likes to be self-critical and and you haven't succeeded in jettisoning that yet, and you're not likely to. However, you are likely, and I know this is true, to develop more and more capacity to accept it. And say, oh, here this is, and not to make further. It's that the whole Four Noble Truths. Here's the suffering. Why am I suffering? Well, I'm wanting something to be different, and then we somehow learn how to relinquish this wanting something to be different, and then then the suffering's gone, even if the pattern is the same. You know this. I didn't say you know this, so stop it. Have you ever seen the Bob Newhart skit on Stop It? That view of mental health training. Just stop it. Stop it, or I'll bury you alive in a box. That's how it goes. With the woman who had yeah. So that was kind of long-winded. I hope that was useful. And thank you for your ministry to the PIMC grounds yesterday. They look all those weeds gone out of the sidewalk makes a big difference. Thanks. A nice pruning job on my hedge. It's a funny thing. I'm so attached to that hedge, it's silly.
I will tell one quick story on the hedge, just because I'd like to claim some like pruning prowess kind of thing. But David, who's the long time, just there all the time, day and night for the grounds, he noticed that the hedge, so this is up against Robert's side wall on the interior garden. And I walked in yesterday and it literally looked like the whole thing had grown over the sidewalk. And I was like, wow. And there was a lot of spring green. So I start trimming it. And David arrives and he says, it needs water. And the weirdest thing is he puts the hose back just to soak it up. And honest to Pete, I stepped away because I was trying to see if I was trimming evenly. And one side of the hedge at the end where he had started watering was beginning to stand upright. I felt like if we had a time-lapse camera, we'd be able to see it.
Really?
Right. And by the time I finished trimming and he finished watering all along there, it was all back up against the wall. It was so cool. It's like watching flowers follow the sun. You watch the hedge go back upright. It was one of the coolest gifts of nature lately. I was just like, wow, okay, we're done. You be well, hedge, and I'll go pick weeds. It was very cool.
That's remarkable. I thought its leaning outness was, and I think part of it is this still, that it got flattened by the ice in the winter. The whole thing was lying on its side, and I actually have I have a way I'm gonna tie it back closer to the building, but it didn't occur to me that it was dying of thirst.
Yeah,
Yay!
I would be surprised if this morning, after a nice long cool evening to soak it all up, that it isn't just a happy camper snug against the wall.
Wow. That's interesting, the attributions we make of things given our prior history. Oh, it died of thirst. Oh, I thought it was the ice in the winter. Jeez. Oh, well. Isn't it wonderful we have more than one set of eyes watching these things? Thank you very much for this morning.
Hi, Robert. It's Carol.
Hello, Carol.
I was just wondering how Gary Sanders is doing and whether he might be able to do a Saturday program at some point in the future, because I had been looking forward to last Saturday. I was sad to hear that he was having challenges. And
I don't see any reason he wouldn't be doing a Saturday again. Did it get announced what happened? Or is it still a black box?
I think it was said that he had had a death in his family
Yeah.
that was really close to him. So I I was sending him a lot of love and compassion.
Yeah, Gary did have a close death, and it was a big deal. On top of the fact that he had COVID not long ago,
Oh,
and he was quite sick with COVID, a kind of atypical COVID course. But he's I haven't spoken with him in about a week, and he was, of course, doing okay, but it's hard, and I'm. It's not a secret, but it's not my place to be telling what happened. Yeah.
no. Okay.
But he's not gone, and he'll be he'll yeah.
Yeah, anyway, I was hoping he was doing okay. Thanks.
Thank you for the nudge. I'll give him a call. It's probably been a week since I've spoken with him.
Thank you.
All of this underlines my growing realization that life is really hard. I know I secretly, I was teaching in my 20s. That's kind of hard to imagine, a little embarrassing. But that first noble truth about dukkha, that there's dukkha, it takes a lifetime to grow into that, I think. To realize my favorite English word, the ubiquitous nature of dukkha. It's everywhere. Except it's not on personal Facebook pages. Well, that's not completely true, but mostly it's, here's my wonderful lunch I had yesterday, and the fact that I'm depressed and my marriage is ending and my children are both in whatever. That's not image management. That's not universally true, of course, but. I just got into touch with a particular dukkha that exists every day when I'm here with you. Back 3 years ago, my 70th birthday, Jennifer and my daughter Tara created a birthday party for me. And it was a surprise. It was almost a surprise. And but it was structured that way. And I showed up at the center, and there were, I don't know, it was big. It was 150 people or so. And my sister flew in, the people flew in from the East Coast, and it was very touching. It was also remarkably painful, because I would get to greet this person and have a moment, and we just begin a conversation, and then there'd be someone else I needed to turn and greet. It's like very frustrating. And I have the same experience here. I look at one of your faces and I think, oh, how's she doing? That conversation 6 months ago, it ended there. I mean, what the hell has happened? And then I look to another face, and that's dukkha. I want it to be different. I don't want to be isolated and insulated, and there's absolutely no way I can maintain contact with even my close beloveds. There's this desire for something to be different. Subtle in a way, but it's right there. Dukkha. Oh, God, Robert, you're talking too much. Shut up. On it goes.
Hey, Robert. It's Tamara.
Hello, Tamara.
Good morning, Robert. Hey, life is really hard, I know, but deep breaths. And there are beautiful things in life. I was just going to mention one which I love that really helps me when I have rough times is synchronicity.
Synchronicity?
Yes.
Mm.
So it's a very neat thing to have in your life that kind of shows up, I know, in mine. I've gone through really hard times. It comes along to help you, to guide you and confirm when you're on the right trail. So I just wanted to mention that. And that we're going to miss you on Sunday. So.
Thanks.
Yeah. Bye.
Is there a story to that picture beside you?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. There's a.
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking to you.
I actually, after my divorce, it was pretty rough. I moved in with my best friend of 30 years, and it's a Picasso picture that she has in the room that's my room now.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Huh. I'm not familiar with it. Cool. It's beautiful, isn't it? The colors
It
and
is.
yeah.
Thank you, Robert.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's magical too. Okay. Bye.
Robert, good morning. It's Rebecca.
Hello, Rebecca.
Hi. I just want to say thank you for being here. I think that that the role you have as a guiding teacher in these times is really challenging and calls for a lot of continuous reflection, introspection, reexamination, and I know that's what I'm doing for myself, and I can imagine if I were in a position to be a leader of people and someone that people are looking to for guidance. It's a very challenging role. Thank you for stepping up to that. So just wanted to open my mouth and say that.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, anybody sitting with something you'd like to share before we go? When I say those words before we go, I have a poem that always pops up. It's that Rumi poem. Inside the great mystery that is, We never really own anything. So what is this strange competition we feel then, before we go, one at a time, through the same gate? So let's go out with the traditional Pali chant, Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. May all beings receive all blessings. 3 times, and then sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And I call to the altar of our hearts Ruth Dennison, with whom I don't know how many thousands of times I did this, but it's part of the lineage, part of the great tradition. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. See you, dear friends.
Bye.
Have a fine, mindful day today, and I look forward to meeting tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye, all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, Denise. Are you in the Dalles? I had you somewhere toward the coast. What's going on here?
Yeah, it's the time of year where I'm everywhere. So last week I was in Cave Junction. This week I'm in the Dalles. I just drove to the Dalles yesterday. I'm working at Dalles Mountain Ranch, doing some plant work there.
Oh, I see. You're a little itinerant.
Yeah, at this time of year I'm follow the flowers and spring.
Huh.
So
what are you doing with them? What are you doing with the flowers?
well, last week I was monitoring an endangered plant, and then this week I'm monitoring kind of the habitat at Dalles Mountain Ranch, which is a old ranch that's got a lot of like really nice remnant prairie in the gorge. So I am going out and I'm getting paid to look at plants all day long.
And who pays you?
I work for a nonprofit that is called the Institute for Applied Ecology. And we get our funding through the alphabet soup of government agencies and some private funding.
Well, what a lovely thing to do for you.
I agree. Yeah.
Huh.
So.
Great. So I'm no longer confused. Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody comes out to Dalles Mountain Ranch today, you'll see me wandering around in the field.
And you're documenting who's doing well and who's not, and
yeah, in this case, it's there's some grazing at the site, and so it's like assessing the effects of grazing and making sure that the it's not too much, but also that it's enough.
Wow. All right. Enjoy. Don't forget your sunscreen.
Yeah, no way.
Bye-bye. Goodbye, dear friends on Facebook and YouTube. It seems like it worked today. Take care.